Stephen A. Smith gives his unfiltered version of what really happened with his confrontation with LeBron James. And he went on Gil's Arena today to describe what really happened. So this is what he has to say on it.
What do you make of LeBron confronting you in the aftermath of that situation?
I thought it was weak. I thought it was some. But in the moment, I knew that I was listening to a father. Here's what happened. I'm represented by William Morris Endeavor. The founder of William Morris Endeavor, Ari Emanuel, had courtside seats right next to the Lakers bench. He had Larry David with him, star of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm sitting with them. I get there in the first quarter. I'm sitting courtside, and I stand up, and then I got my head turned. And then I turned back around, and a lot of people thought this was the end of the game or something like that. This was in the third quarter. Apparently, LeBron had walked out of the timeout, and I turned around, and he's right here in my face. He said, yo, you got to stop talking about my son. You got to stop with my son. That's my son. That's my son. And I was like, what? He said, nah, f that. I said, yo, let's talk later. He's like, f that. Nah, f that. You got to stop with my son. And I said, all right, dog. And he walked off. So I remember during a timeout in the first quarter, seeing Bronny. And Bronny looked over at me. And he had this sad look on his face. And I'm imagining Pop saw that it hit him. And he couldn't hold it, and he rolled up on me. And so when I went on the air the next morning, first things first, believe it or not, I know this is shocking for people to believe, but I didn't have any intentions on talking about it until I woke up that morning and saw that going viral. Once they're going viral, the bosses at ESPN, now you got to talk about it. This is you and him. You got to talk about it. I said, fine. So I go on the air and I said, the first thing that I'm going to do is establish that this was a father talking to me, not a player. And that was what threw me off. And I was glad, even though I thought that he misrepresented the argument, I was glad he did. Because you see, what he was really talking about, which was confirmed with his conversation with Richard Jefferson, is that I was talking about him as a father. And so what happens is that had he said that to me, then I wouldn't have been thrown off. I'd have came right back at him. Yes, I was. I was talking about you. You did this, which I'll get to in a second. But because he didn't do that, I said, fine, you let it go. Mind you, I just agreed to my contract. Courtside. That day was when it was announced. It's all over, everywhere.
Watch about
I mean, right? Yeah. It's a nationally televised game. The cameras are rolling, and I'm like, if I do anything, this is gonna be a scene. Now, we can sit up here in front all we want to and act like we don't work for somebody. Damn it, I work for Walt Disney. And if I had gotten in the with him at courtside right there at that moment, no matter how right I would have been, it would have been wrong. And I was like, I'm not gonna do this. But once I saw the tape of him talking to Richard Jefferson Saturday night in Boston, that was when I got really pissed because that was confirmation.
And this is the clip Stephen A. Smith is talking about when LeBron talked to Richard Jefferson. And this is what Stephen A. Smith had to say on his own podcast regarding the issue of when LeBron talked to Richard Jefferson.
Jefferson, you saw the video. So when he sat up there and said, when I'm talking as a dad, right? That's the only thing. That's the only thing I'm tripping. I don't give a F. Once he talks about you I plead as a father, I can't. So it wasn't about Bronny. It was about him. Those are his words. Once he said, as a father, that was about him. Which was my point January 29th. It's been about you. I don't want to have a critical word about Bronny James at this stage of his career. And I completely agree with LeBron's agent and the head of Clutch Sports, Rich Paul. We don't always agree. As a matter of fact, most of the time we don't agree at all, but we talk, and I respect the hell out of him. And he made very valid points, and I want to emphasize, Rich is just class. And I got a lot of love for Rich because he's decent at his core, and he's going to call you and talk to you man to man. He would have never did what LeBron James did Thursday night. He never would have done that. But that's neither here nor there. But Rich Paul made a point that Bronny should be contextualized and presented better. I agree with him on that. There's plenty of dudes in the NBA and who have been in the NBA over the years that have been drafted in the second round who struggle initially before getting their bearings under them and ultimately elevating their level of play. He is absolutely right. The reason why it's different for Bronny as opposed to others is because he's LeBron James' son. The NIL deals, the 4-year, $8 million contract, all of these other things that come with it that doesn't happen for the average 55th pick overall in the second round of an NBA draft. The fact of the matter is that there's plenty of dudes that have come in the second round, and it takes them a couple of years, in some cases longer, to get their bearings under them. He is absolutely right. But having said all of that, that again buffers my point. It was never about Bronny. I wouldn't do that to a kid. It was about his dad. And it wasn't about his dad even wanting him in the NBA. It's the things he said and the things he maneuvered and manipulated in order to get his son to wear the same uniform as him, which brought that attention. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I want to get into a conversation about me because of how some folks have been attacking me. Not over this, but using this as an excuse to accuse me of hating on the brothers. I'm sick of that shit. I'm not backing up from that anymore. I'm not taking it from people anymore. I'm not just a black man. I'm a brother. I'm not going to take this shit from people anymore. I'm going on Gilbert Arenas' podcast tomorrow. Gil's Arena. With Rashad McCants, with Kenyon Martin, Swaggy P, Nick Young and the crew. I can't wait. I can't wait for that conversation. I'm not taking this shit no more from people. I've had it with this. Because it's incidents like this that people try to piggyback off of. And they try to use it as an excuse to talk about me, hating on brothers. Me, the brother who is the ambassador for HBCU Week, that's generated millions in scholarship dollars for thousands of kids. Me, who's helped diversify ESPN with the opportunities as executive producer of First Take, black folks, men and women period, white as well, any minority you can find. Me, who has worked in this business for 30 years. Think about what I know. Think about what I've seen. Think about how much incriminating stuff that I could say. Think about how many incriminating facts I have. And I'm talking about the game. But literally, these brothers act like if this were boxing and a black dude knocked another black dude out, and I talked about the black dude that got knocked out, it's black on black crime. But the brother that knocked him out, you're just going to ignore the praise I gave him. Gervonta Davis fights Lamont Roach last week. It was a majority draw because he took a knee. If the ref had counted that, Gervonta Davis should have lost the fight. Me saying that means I'm hating on a brother? What the hell has this world come to? But this is the stuff that I'm being subjected to. I'm not taking it anymore. I'm not taking it anymore. I see players, I ain't gonna even mention their names right now. I got plenty of time to do that. But LeBron is one of them. A week before he confronted me, remember he said, why should somebody be the face of the league? Well, all these dudes do is go on the air in the mornings and shit on players. He was talking about me. Why? Because I got you number 2 all time? I think LeBron James is the greatest player in the history of man outside of Michael Jordan. I don't have him as number 1. Great father, great husband, great actor, great businessman, great family man, great philanthropist, great producer. What haven't I said? 4-time champion, 4-time league MVP. All-time leading scorer in NBA history right now. Surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. What have I not said? Come on, man. But they've been talking. These players, some of them, not most, not all, but a few. You know what they've been trying to do, right? In my opinion, what they've been trying to do is accuse me of selling out for the purposes of making it difficult for me to walk the streets as a black man amongst my peoples. Treating me like I'm not down. And I got to come on here on a public platform and speak about the challenges and the trials and tribulations that I have had to endure to help us, just because I'm critiquing your game. And too many of y'all have allowed them to get away with it. That's the real story here. Because LeBron told Richard Jefferson, and by virtue of doing that, told all of y'all, it wasn't about his son. It was about him. Because I said, as a father. But you're going to forget the quotes you gave. You're going to forget how you were bloviating about him. You're going to forget the fact that I said before he ever played the game, don't do that because you're bringing more attention on him, which means he's going to be more heavily scrutinized. And then you're going to get mad at us for pointing out what you were saying. But we forget that. We forget that. Maybe, just maybe, y'all tired of listening to me. I got somebody I want you to listen to instead of me, just for a couple of minutes, right after you hear this.